This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I'll make sure I take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, make sure you never miss an episode, make sure I was on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. We very appreciate it, very helpful. Let us see what you guys like, which I dislike, the ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And the ending of this Thursday night game definitely gave us a lot to discuss, because that game was very interesting at the end, to say the very least. I mean, it was interesting basically start to finish, depending on, if you had a rooting interest in it. If you were either a Raiders fan or a Chargers fan, I imagine it was much more stressful, and you were much more confused, and didn't really understand why your coaching staff or your team was doing certain things. As a fan of neither of these teams, I was just watching football. I was entertained. I was intrigued. Again, did some things make little sense? Yes, I would 100% agree with that. But I did not get upset because I'm not a fan. Like I said, if I was a fan, that game would have made me pull my hair out. Especially if I'm a Raiders fan, because seeing as badly as they needed this win, and unfortunately they were not able to get it. Obviously, if you guys listen to this, you know by now that the Chargers beat the Raiders 30-27 in overtime. But like I said, obviously the Raiders didn't really have everything they wanted to have happen in this game. They didn't want everybody they wanted to have in this game. That's what I meant to say. Like, obviously, they had a lot of guys on COVID list, or missing games due to injuries, or different things. And obviously, early in the game, I believe it was the second drive of the game, Derek Carr goes out with an injury and just pulls his groin, I believe, on like the second or third drive of the game. So Mariota has to come. And then shout out to Mariota for being ready and for playing well. Because he hadn't, like I said, I believe that for a while, the backup was Nathan Peterman. So, like, he wasn't even normally the guy that would have been the backup in a different, if it was for a different time of the year, he wouldn't have been the guy to come in. But he was ready and willing and able to go when his number was called upon. And like I said, I give him credit for that, because I don't know, I think this is the last time he's probably played in a live game since whenever he got benched in Tennessee, I would think. Because I don't think he's had to come in any game this season for the Raiders. And obviously, like I said, or did he have to come in at any point for the Titans? He might have to, like, I don't forget if Tannehill got like hurt for a little bit or something like that in like a game and he had to come in. But like, obviously he played basically the entire game, sans, like I said, 2 series. Where after Derek Carr got hurt with the groin injury. I guess we'll see how serious that is. But again, the Raiders playoffs hopes are kind of shaky right now, so it really doesn't matter. Like I said, shout out to him. He looked pretty good. 17-28, 226, a touchdown and an interception. The interception was his fault because it was behind the receiver. I believe it was Zay Jones, but also he got a hand on it, tipped it up, and that allowed Chris Harris to pick it off. Though he did run him down, so shout out to him for that. Also, had 9 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown on the ground as well. So he was, like I said, he showed why he was such a highly drafted player. Like I said, people thought he could be like that next era of dual threat quarterback. That's what he was at Oregon. Obviously, we've seen that what he was is taking a step further with the likes of Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. But like I said, they thought he could be that type of guy. Like, because again, the speed's still there, obviously. The arm strength was never really great. You saw on the touchdown, like Waller and some other passes. Like the deep ball is still there. He has the nice touch on it. But yeah, it was just unfortunate for him that they could not get the win. But again, not really that surprising, seeing as their defense was what it was. I mean, it was bad before. They were missing like 4 or 5 starters. I mean, Justin Herbert, I believe, started the game like 9 for 9. Would have been 10 for 10 if Guyton didn't drop the pass because he turned his head too late on, like, it was like a crossing route on like 3rd down. Ended up the game 22 of 32, 314, 2 touchdowns. So like I said, he had another one of his great games, basically what he's been doing the entire season. At this point, it's just like it's a shocker when he doesn't have at least 2 touchdowns and like 275, 300 yards, something like that. Like it's a shock when he plays poorly, which is again crazy to think about due to the fact that he is only a rookie. So he had a good game. The running game was what it was. Like I said, it hasn't really been that good this year. Eckler made it a little bit better, but still outside of that, he really wasn't that efficient. The passing game was interesting because obviously it was like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen weren't going to play. Then they did suit up, but then they were like kind of in and out. Like they weren't really, they were playing, but like they weren't playing, if that makes sense. Like I think Keenan Allen played like a couple, I don't remember seeing him much in the second half. Mike Williams was like sporadically in there. There was a lot of Guyton, a lot of that Johnson guy who caught a touchdown, a lot of Hunter Henry who also caught a touchdown. Guyton almost had the other touchdown in overtime, which we'll talk about in a second, because the end of that game was kind of nuts. So, I said, let's fast forward to the end, because the beginning was pretty cool. Obviously, it was 17-10.5. The Chargers put together a nice little touchdown drive. This was the touchdown to Tyron Johnson with like 19 seconds left in the half. So, shout out to them. This was after 2-minute warning. The Raiders went 3 and out. So, like I said, not exactly the ideal situation. Then they just gave the ball right back to the Chargers, and clearly, Justin Herbert has shown doesn't need that much time to get down the field. Like I said, they went from, well, first off, there was a bad punt, 19-yard punt. So they got it in midfield anyway, and within 2 plays, they were already at the Vegas 26. Like I said, so that happened. So then, okay, so we get the second half, which is a little bit more exciting. We got touchdowns, 3 straight drives. The Chargers come back, tie the game. This was on I think this was the. No, wait, were there? No, okay, no, I was about to say I went to the wrong thing. This was the Josh Jacobs touchdown run after a nice little drive. That was the thing, 10 plays, 76 yards. A lot of the Raider drives are kind of long. Then the Chargers come back, they drive down the field in 12 plays, 75 yards. This was the Kalen Ballage 1-yard touchdown. Then the Raiders come back, score again. This was the Mariota 2-yard touchdown run on 3rd and goal. That was nice. Then this is where the end of the game kicked in, because they scored to tie the game up with like 6 minutes left, the Raiders did. And like I said, this is when both teams were more or less actively trying to lose the game. So, Chargers come down. Put together a nice drive, 6 plays, 47 yards. Get into field goal range. Badgie misses the 47-yarder. She's like, oh, are the Chargers going to charge this game up? Because like I said, they were up 7. They were up a score at halftime, and were up a score again in the second half, and like I said, they found a way to blow the lead, which again, not shocking if you're a Chargers fan or just anybody that's watched the Chargers or paid attention to Chargers at all this year. You know that this is what they kind of do, and this is what they've done basically for the entirety of their franchise, more or less. It seems like Philip Rivers is always playing close games with like you need to go the length of the field with like a minute left and a couple timeouts to win it, and then sometimes the kicker would miss, because that's just what happens with the Chargers. Your kicker misses field goals. So like I said, he missed the field goal. And then the Raiders come back, they drive down, and this is, like I said, that was the interception we talked about earlier with Chris Harris. Picked it off and ran it back. I think it was like 50 yards. So they're like, oh, okay, boom, we're right back in field goal range. Chargers going to win it. Like, they'll be cool. Then they kind of play it a little conservative. They run twice and then try to do like a little rollout play. But then like it was like a weird, because like they're trying to get Eckler in the flat, I believe, but they guarded it pretty well. And then I think like Guyton was coming like across the formation the other way, so I don't know what he was doing, or why like that was a part of the play, because Herbert's rolling right, like that's not like he's never going to throw it that way. So I don't know if that was a mix up or whatever. And then like also the Raiders blitzed from that side, so that was a nice defensive play call. One of the few good defensive play calls they had basically all game against the Chargers. Ended up getting the sack, so that lost them 8 yards. Then Michael Badgie comes out to kick the 51-yarder, and because of the Charger kicker, of course he misses it. So the Raiders get a little bit of time to try to move the ball down the field. They are able to move it kind of, sort of. They get it down to, I think they run like a short pass on like 3rd and 10 with like 40 seconds left. Then because they got it short, they got to go for it. And instead of passing the ball, they decided to go quarterback sneak on because they're out of timeouts at this point. So then they go quarterback sneak. Then you waste a lot of time doing that. Then they come up and spike the ball. And I know Mariota's arm isn't great, but like he should be at least. I think they were at the 47-yard line at that point. Like he should be able to throw the ball like 50 yards into the end zone. You would think, but they chose not to. They're like, hey, let's go for a 65-yard field goal. And because they had no timeouts, you gotta like there was like a little bit of delay if what they were gonna do. Then they go out for the field goal, and then like again it's kind of rushed because they got to get the snap out before the game clock runs out. The holder drops a snap, and you lose a yard on a 65-yard field goal attempt. Even though it would have been fun if they put a second back on the clock. I think they could have. That'd been funny to because Herbert obviously could have reached the end zone. So that would have been an interesting way for this game to potentially end. But like I said, coaching decisions, those last couple minutes, some of those play calls I didn't really understand. Like I said, the third down play call from the Chargers, didn't really like the 4th and 1 quarterback sneak. We need to conserve time does not really make a whole lot of sense to me. But again, they need to get the first down. I get it. So like I said, both teams actually trying to lose. The Chargers missed 2 field goals that could have won them the game, potentially. And then, like I said, the Raiders turn the ball over and then try to kick a 65-yard field goal that was probably going to be well short, I would assume. But yeah, you never know. And then they can't even get the snap off. So like I said, they go to overtime. And then in the overtime period, you go and the Raiders come down 14 plays, 70-yard drive. They end up kicking a field goal at the end because they tried to run. I think someone on Twitter put out this was the infamous John Gruden play, the spider to wide banana to the fullback from 5 yards out because of course, so that doesn't work for whatever reason. Like I said, why not just throw it to Waller? He'd been great. I think he had like 9 for 150 and a touchdown in this game. Or Aguilar looked good as well in this game. It's like throw it to one of them. I don't know why you're trying to manufacture a play for the fullback with the game on the line. But hey, John goes the head coach. I'm not. So they try that. It doesn't work. They kick the field goal. Then the Chargers go down the field in like 5 plays. It was like, I think it was like, they got like 2nd and 10. They got pass interference. And then the next play, they go deep to Guyton. If the left guard, because the left guard just like stopped blocking inexplicably for some reason, if he could have like held his block for half a second longer, Justin Herbert would have stepped into his throw and led Guyton into the end zone because he cooked the corner. I don't know what the corner just didn't get out of his back. It didn't make any sense. Like Guyton's fast. Like you would think, hey, maybe I would need to cheat a little bit so I don't get beat deep. And he let him beat him deep. And then, like I said, the ball was slightly underthrown, so he couldn't get into the end zone, but they're at the 2-yard line. So, like I said, this is when more humor comes in. They run a quarterback sweep like Justin Herbert's Lamar Jackson on first down. Don't understand it. Like I said, Anthony's probably going to get fired, but like if you told me he was trying to get fired, like I kind of believe it. Because like for what purpose are you running Justin Herbert on it? Like not to say that he's I just don't understand what the line of thinking there for the play call. Because yeah, he's athletic, but he's not Lamar Jackson, not Kyler Murray. He's not like, hey, let's call a quarterback running play for even not Dak. Like he's not like let's call, or even Josh Allen. Like let's call a quarterback running play for this guy. And like after he just threw the ball 50 yards down the field on a a dime. Like I said, it was a little bit underthrown because he got hit, but like it's like nearly perfect pass. Like yeah, that's the play we're gonna go with. They like get no yards. Or no, I can take that back. They get like a yard, I think. Then they try to go quarterback sneak. He fumbles because he goes up too high because he's like 6'6", and didn't bend down properly. Loses the ball. It goes into the end zone. The Chargers recover it, but because it's like under 2 minutes, because like again the Raiders drive took so long that you can't advance the fumble. It's like all right, they just get the ball back at the 1. They go quarterback sneak again. He like doesn't get it in on the first surge. He has the second surge and like barely gets it across. Like I said, that game was a mess. Both teams were actually trying to lose. It seemed like, especially there at the end, just making mistakes back and forth, questionable decisions back and forth. But the Chargers were able to pull it out. So shout out to them. Like I said, and just for whatever reason, the Chargers continue to play close games. It's just like what they love to do. But shout out to Justin Herbert now 2 weeks in a row with game-winning drives. So that's pretty cool. Like I said, as a rookie, you want to see, after they'd spent so much time losing those games earlier, even though not all of it was his fault, now you want to see them start winning some of those close games games late, where he has to put drives together and make big throws and make big time plays in order to get the team to win. So that's what you like to see. So like I said, that's good. Anthony Lynn probably not gonna have a job. this time next year. At least not with the Chargers. I will say that. And like I said, if you can come in, get a Brian Daboll, get a Arthur Smith, somebody, a Bieniemy, I don't know if you go division, Bieniemy, a Joe Brady, somebody like that, to really help unleash not that it hasn't already been unleashed because Justin Herbert's been great, but it's like even further tap into what Justin Herbert could be. The sky's the limit for this kid. So shout out to him. Raiders, on the other hand, obviously it's a tough one because, like I said, you're undermanned. You already came in banged up and like with guys out. Then your quarterback goes down, second drive of the game. So they fought hard. They did what they almost did what they had to do. Again, they were able to put trials together. They were able to manufacture offense with Mariota out there. Having not played extended football in a while, he looked very solid. And that's what you want from a backup quarterback. You want him to come in and not like screw everything up. And that's what Mariota did. So shout out to him. Again, you had guys like Aguilar step up in the absence of some of their other receivers. So that was nice. Even though he's been good all year, so that's not like a surprise. Obviously, Waller was still Waller. Jacobs was still Jacobs. So that's what you want to see. Like I said, you other guys need to step up. The defense was the problem and has been the problem most of the year. So that's nothing new. But yeah, now the Raiders are in kind of a bad spot because they're at 7-7 right now. And like I said, they needed this game to really even have a chance to get into the playoffs, have a chance to continue to fight for the playoffs. But like now, like I said, there's still going to be, even if Miami and Baltimore lose this weekend, there's still going to be a game back of them. So like I said, it's going to be tough for them to make that up. With only 2 games left. And those 2 games, one of them being against the Dolphins, like I said, that'll be an important one. It would have been even more important one if they would have won today. And then the game is the Broncos, who, like, again, the Broncos are like a weird team. They can be good, they can be bad, depending on if Drew Lock's turning the ball over that day. So, like I said, it's a shame, but the Raiders' playoff hopes might have been dashed by Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. So, like I said, it's unfortunate, but, hey, shout out to the Chargers. Like I said, they got the dub, so that's pretty cool. So, there was an interesting discussion that was had, I believe it was on NFL Live earlier this week. Not discussion, but I think Dan Orlovsky made a comment about how Travis Kelce is the best non-quarterback in the league at this current time, playing right now. And obviously there's some pushback on it, but you got me thinking of who are the best non-quarterbacks in the league at this moment, and like how would I assess them, and who would I have as the top guy? Obviously, a lot of people answers obvious per se, but again, you gotta have there's some other people that are playing very well at their position that aren't quarterbacks. So we'll discuss some of those guys after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back. We're again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So as I said, we're going to discuss the non-quarterbacks in the league that I think could be in the conversation for the best player in the league. So again, no Mahomes, obviously no Aaron Rodgers, those type of guys, because those two are most likely the guys going to be battling it out for MVP. Though Josh Allen will have something to say about that, depending on how these final games go. But as of right now, I believe it might be Rodgers 1, Mahomes 2 now, after the Dolphins game. Even though they did still win, but 3 turnovers. And Rodgers not really doing that at this point in time. But like I said, those are your 1 and 2. And like I said, I think Josh Allen is 3rd. And then, again, you might have some other people in there as well. But, like I said, Travis Kelce. Now, when you look at his numbers this season, you can completely understand why Dan Orlovsky would feel the way that he does about how good of a player Travis Kelce is at this point. Now, he's been a good player for quite a while. He's now 31 years old. I believe he's made the Pro Bowl 5 straight years. 5 straight years. Been a first-team All-Pro twice, obviously just coming off the Super Bowl, things like that. And this may end up being his best season ever. Right now, the 13 games, he's at 90 catches for 1,250 yards, which leads the league, I believe, and 9 touchdowns. His career high in yards is 1336, which he might surpass in this next upcoming game. They play New Orleans. So who knows? But again, if not, he'll get that over these last 3 games. Like, it's not going to take him 3 games to get, 80 more yards. Like, that's not going to happen, I would think. His career high in catches is 103. Again, he could have that by I think they play Atlanta next, so he should have that by the Atlanta game. And then touchdowns wise, he's at 9, and his career high is 10. Like I said, career year for him, and not only just like a career year, for him, but it's like one of the best years like in the league from a receiver at this point. Like I said, he leads the league in receiving yards at this point in time. Obviously, the touchdowns aren't. I know that there's obviously more people with higher touchdowns, but like I said, he's one of the best receivers in the league, and he's not even a receiver. If you get what I'm saying, like he's just that good at his position that he's a number one receiver without actually being a number one receiver, which not many people can say that they have. Like I said, very rarely, and even with that, like for them to have that, and for him to be that good. Because like I said, most of the time, if you have a receiver or a tight end that's your best receiver, like, oh, maybe your offense isn't that stagnant. Like, again, that's what happened with the Eagles the last couple of years. Like, Zach Ertz was number one, really. But like, because he's not a dynamic pass catcher, that kind of limits your offense. But like I said, he's a guy that can, and not that Zach Ertz can line up out wide, but again, he can line up all over the field. He can catch screens. He can go deep. He can break tackles, make people miss, go for long runs. Obviously, he's been in the conversation for best tight end in the league for some years now. Now I think he's clearing away the best one. Though, in fairness to him, George Kittle's been hurt this year, so kind of hard to say. And obviously, Zach Ertz hasn't been what he was. So he's it's probably just him and Waller right now in the league. Like I say, he leads the league in receptions. He leads the league in receiving yards. He's top 5, 6. He's 6th in receptions, though. And 4th is Darren Waller, and who's already played his game this week, and tied for first at this current time is Keenan Allen, who also has played his game this week. So those two don't really count. See how that goes. And touchdowns wise, he's tied for 6th, but one guy above him is his own teammate Tyreek Hill. So again, they help out each other. And another guy who's tied for first at 14 as well, touchdowns they have receiving, is a guy that I'll talk about later in the segment. So don't want to give that away just yet. Like I said, if you want to make the argument that he's the best non-quarterback in the league, I could get it. Obviously, the pushback for Dan came because, Aaron Donald still exists, which is a fair argument. Aaron Donald may very well be the defensive player of the year again, though, like I said, you could put TJ Watt in there. Could put like a Jalen Ramsey in there just to what he's done, though he doesn't. Like I said, the pick production is kind of down. But like I said, he has 12.5 sacks, 16 tackles for loss. And the crazy thing about it is this isn't even on pace for his best season. Like I said, he had a season, I should say, 2 years ago, 2018. And I believe that's the year he won Defensive Player of the Year as well, if I remember correctly. No, take that back. He's won it twice. So it was 2017 and 2018. In 2018, that was the 20.5 sack year. It's like I said, he only got 12.5 right now, but he's probably going to get more, you would assume. So he'll have at least his second highest sack total of his career at this point. On top of the fact he already has 4 forced fumbles on the year, he has what else he has? I think it was like I said 6. No, so it was only 10 tackles for loss. It's interesting. I thought someone else said 16. 24 quarterback hits. So again, this is a situation where he's just as dominant as he's ever been, which is, again, what you like to see. So, yeah, like I said, ESPN says that's the 16, but Football Reference said only 10. So it's very confusing. So like I said, I'll go with the 16. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, he's continuing to play at an elite level and has for years. And he's part of the reason, not the only reason, but a part of the reason why that defense is arguably, and in some cases statistically, best in the league right now. And like I said, even with Jared Goff and the offense being Jared Goff-ish in terms of the turnovers and the inconsistencies and things like that, the defense has really been what's made the difference for them this year and what may make the difference for them going forward into the playoffs. And a lot of that has to do with Aaron Donald. So, like I said, you could say that about him for years now. Like I said, he's been arguably the best non-quarterback for a couple of years now. So if you say that about him, no one's really going to get any pushback. No, you're not really going to get any argument out of guys. Well, generally speaking, obviously there was some Twitter talk before the season, even cut during the season, about how he's not really that good of a run defender and blah 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 and whatever. Yeah, this is when this is when a guy's too good for too long. You try to nitpick and try to find random things or make up statistics because I figured that there was some fancy analytical like his run block win rate or some one of those type of not new fangled but like newish like stats to try to judge how good a player is and how often he wins or how often he defeats his block or how often he's involved in a run stop or something like that, or like his run stops or whatever it was. And there was some talk earlier in the season about how he wasn't as good in the run. And again, that's kind of a little bit overblown. And a lot of it is like he does things that allow other people to make the plays. Like he doesn't always have to be in the backfield making the plays. But again, once it's time to rush the passer, it's kind of what he does. So he does that. So I said you could say him, and even another guy you could say, like I said, a guy that's competing for him with Defense Player of the Year. You could say a guy like T.J. Watt, who has 12 sacks in the year. According to ESPN, has 21 tackles for loss, has 7 pass defenses, has an interception, only has 1 forced fumble. That's the big difference. That he's not really getting the ball out when he gets to the quarterback, but he's still getting to the quarterback a lot. And obviously we'll see kind of how that goes without his running mate Bud Dupree on the opposite side. And like I said, the defense kind of falling apart around him. There's another guy you could have in that conversation. And then obviously you could have a guy like Jalen Ramsey, another part of that Rams defense. They kind of work hand in hand. And his biggest issue for him and why it may be tough to have him as number one is because of the interception or lack thereof. When you have guys like Xavier Howard who have 9 interceptions on the year, you have a guy I believe in Darius Williams. I think it's his name. Yeah, Darius Williams, who has 4 interceptions on the year. And like I said, that you're the guy opposite you. Like I said, his ball production is just not really where you would hope for a guy of his caliber, or for like a defensive player of the year or best non-quarterback type. But in terms of what he's done to actual receivers this year and the way he's held them down and the way in which it allows the Rams to play defense, and again, just to kind of just not worried about one side of the field because he's got it on lock and he's got a receiver on lock. That is, like I said, that in and of itself is very impressive. So, it's like I said, they kind of go hand in hand, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. So again, it's kind of tough to decipher. But again, what he's done, it makes Aaron Donald's job easier, and what Aaron Donald's doing makes his job easier. So again, kind of go back and forth on that. But two other guys I want to talk about real quick. One, obviously, again, not everybody wants to talk about running backs and things like that, but with what Derrick Henry has been doing this year, I feel like you have to put him in the conversation for best non-quarterback. It's because, again, in an offense that is designed to give Derrick Henry the ball as often as possible, and in an offense that is so run dominant, he continues to be dominant. On the season this year, he has 1,500 yards, 1,532, and 14 touchdowns already through 13 games. His career highs in rush yards is 1,540, and his career high in touchdowns is 16, and he should surpass that in these next 3 weeks, averaging 117.8 yards per game, all these lead the league if I remember correctly. I'm gonna double check that for you guys real quick. Obviously, the thing that hurts him is that he's not really a receiving threat. Only 17 receptions on the year for barely over 100 yards and no touchdowns. So that kind of hurts. But like I said, when you're in an offense that is designed to hey, we're gonna try to stop, we're gonna give Derrick Henry the ball and then build off of that. And defense knows that every week and still can't stop you. He has multiple 200-yard games. And though, in fairness, against Houston and Jacksonville, not exactly the greatest defenses, but has 100 against Denver, has 100 against Minnesota, has 100 against Cincinnati, has 100 against Indianapolis, has 133 against Baltimore. These are all at least 100, obviously not exactly 100 that I was talking about earlier. Has 178 against the Colts the second time. Like I said, it's just he's playing, and because it was could he continue? Because that's kind of what he was doing at the end of last year and into the playoffs. And it was could he keep this up? And clearly, he was able to keep this up. So like I said, he's probably the best running back in the league right now. And it's crazy, especially in the league where running is not really as important, but it's just him and Dalvin Cook at the moment right now. Playing 3 running backs over 1,000 yards this year. That's kind of crazy. Like I said, he leads the league in yards by 200, almost 200. His tied for the league lead in touchdowns. Has only lost 1 fumble on the year. Has multiple big runs. Has over 75 first down runs. So again, it's not to say he is the best, because again, it's a running back, so not as valuable a position, but it's hard to argue against him being one of the best non-quarterbacks in the league right now. The way he's playing has an outside chance to get to 2,000 yards on the year, just because the last 3 teams he plays are Detroit, Green Bay, and Houston, not exactly known for their run defense. So we'll see about that. And speaking of Green Bay, the one other guy I want to talk about was Davante Adams, because similar to Derrick Henry, even though Derrick Henry is A.J. Brown, so that helps, and then obviously Davante Adams is Aaron Jones. But in an offense where Aaron Rodgers has very limited weapons on the outside, and some of the guys have been hurt, Allen Lazard's been hurt, and things like that, Davante Adams continues to be dominant, and that's what you love to see. For the season right now, he has 91 catches, 144 yards, and 14 touchdowns on the season. This is only his second 1,000-yard season, and he already has a career high in touchdowns, and he's only played in 11 games, averaging 104 yards per game. So, like I said, that's the thing, is that he's missed time as well, and just that when he's been out there, he's been nearly unguardable. At that, again, it's not that he reached the 2,000-yard mark or anything like that, but at that pace, we're talking about almost 1,700 yards, and he's got 14 touchdowns in 11 games. So we're talking about at least a touchdown a game on average. You're talking about maybe a 21 touchdown season if you played all 16. And that's how dominant he's been. And again, he's not alone. There's some other good receivers that are playing well as well. Him being one of the top, obviously top in touchdowns. DK Metcalf obviously been very good this year. And Stephon Diggs, I want to give him a shout out as well. Really, not totally, but really helped to revamp that Bills offense. And obviously, the thing that's going to hold him back is his lack of touchdowns, because he only has 5. But he has 100 catches already this year, has over 1,100 yards this year through 13 games. So again, he's been good. And like I said, the touchdowns on top of the receptions, on top of the yardage, are what makes Davante Adams good, especially when he's only done it in 11 games. Like I said, most of the other guys you're talking about at least 12, 13, and games like that, and he's doing it in 11. And like I said, his numbers are just as good, if not better. And like I said, the touchdown production is really what separates him. Again, it just seems like whenever they need to go, whenever they need to go get points, Aaron Rodgers can just find Davante Adams, and you're going to get a touchdown at some point. So, like I said, these are just some names that you could throw out there. Like I said, I would probably go Aaron Donald, just because it's hard not to go Aaron Donald at this point in time. Like I said, Travis Kelce has a real legitimate case. You would argue he's the best receiving threat in the league this year. Same with Davante Adams. And like I said, you could say the same thing about Derrick Henry. Best running back in the league, obviously. And like I said, even like a Jalen Ramsey type. And even like I said, even like a Xavier Howard, 9 interceptions in this day and age is absurd. But if you get, I think the Gilmore won the defensive player of the year last year, and he only got 6. Not the interceptions are the be all and end all, because some of it's luck, some of it's skill. And like I said, these guys like Jalen Ramsey, they don't even throw to his man. So like, you don't even got to worry about getting interceptions, because he's just not getting the ball thrown his way. So again, that's not everything that matters. But again, you get a guy that has 9 interceptions, I think another guy has 7, and like 7 for a season would lead the league most of the time. Like I said, there's a guy that not only has more than that, but that's more than that with 3 more games to play. So he could easily get double-digit interceptions this year. So like I said, and that's what probably hurts Jalen Ramsey a little bit, just like lack of interceptions. But again, if you just see him out in the field, and you have a one-on-one, like a number one receiver to shut down, there's not many people you're taking, if any, over Jalen Ramsey at this point in time. So like I said, a couple different options. I would go Aaron Donald. Like I said, Travis Kelce has a case. Devontae Adams has a case. Derrick Henry has a case. Aaron Donald obviously has a case. Jalen Ramsey has a case. There's maybe a couple other guys you could throw in there to have a case. But like I said, there's a lot of good players in the league that aren't quarterbacks, that don't get the love they necessarily should because they aren't quarterbacks. So that's unfortunate, but try to show them a little bit of love in this segment. I should say, excuse me. So speaking of love, it seems as if the Rockets may or may not love what James Harden's doing. Shocker, I know. Because apparently, or allegedly, they have opened up the trade talks. And again, we'll see what that means. It may just be like a negotiation tactic, just like the Sixers thing, where like they said that Simmons was on the table and Morey said he wasn't on the table. It's a very interesting situation. So we will discuss all of that right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So as I said, the Houston Rockets have apparently, this is from Woj and Ramona Shelburne, excuse me. The Houston Rockets have expanded trade talks beyond James Harden's preferred destinations. The Houston Rockets are increasingly expanding trade discussions on All-NBA guard James Harden beyond his preferred destinations of Brooklyn and Philadelphia, though obviously in the week he said Miami and the Bucks as well. Several playoff caliber teams in the Eastern and Western conferences have told ESPN that they're finding increased comfort in committing high-level trade assets in talks to acquire James Harden. The Rockets have ongoing discussions on several fronts and have been communicating with Harden about those scenarios, sources said. Several teams told ESPN that they're feeling less inhibited about trading for Harden without an assurance that he resign once he becomes a free agent in 2 years. I mean, that's a long way into the future. There's no way to know that for sure. While the Sixers have signaled a willingness to include All-NBA guard Ben Simmons guard forward, whatever you want to call him, in trade talks or in trade packages, those talks have come nowhere close to a deal. Sources said the Nets are limited by the Rockets' interest in their personnel and likely would need a third team to emerge in talks. That's fair, because again, the best player you're getting is like Karras or like maybe Kyrie, but even still, I get Kyrie or I get Ben Simmons. Probably would take Ben Simmons. So like I said, as we kind of discussed already, the Sixers have the best trade package you could put together, in theory at least, of the teams that A, Harden would want to go to, and B, they'd probably be able to facilitate a trade with. So, and there is that. So far, the Rockets' steep asking price of young players and picks hasn't moved any of the discussions into an advanced stage. The Rockets are planning to start the season next week with Harden sharing the backcourt with John Wall, but are exhibiting a desire to teams that they'll move on. They'll move on completing a deal as soon as possible. Harden, he spoke to the reporters on Wednesday. He said that his focus right now is on the team, and he's here now, and he wants to work and do everything. Though apparently he claimed that he was in Vegas and Atlanta training. Obviously, you can't train 24/7. But again, when things that come out are about you at birthday parties and other social gatherings with no mask and things like that, it's hard to just say that you were just down there training as if there aren't videos of you out there doing things that aren't training. Though, again, a lot of these guys, maybe they like their they like their personal trainers, they like the work that they do, as opposed to whatever the team has in mind. And these are superstars. It is what it is. Though, this report, I should say, did come on the heels of, I think it was in The Athletic, the story that came out about how James Harden basically runs the Rockets, or had run the Rockets in the past. Basically, he could do whatever he want. He could come and go as he pleased. Apparently, if they were on or a long road trip or had a couple off days, they knew that he was going to be flying into Vegas or wherever, just getting his party on. And hey, he's still very good, so you can't really get too mad about it. But it is kind of disappointing. Obviously, apparently, he would just come and go as he pleased, show up to meetings when he wanted, do a bunch of different things. I believe there's even one excerpt I thought I saw on Twitter where there was a film session that they were having during the bubble, and Harden timed his COVID test to happen right around when the film session was about to start. So I guess because he didn't really care to watch the film, so I guess he wanted to be late. And then Russ was trying to say hey, we could just start without him. It's fine. Just start the film session. Why do we have to wait? And then D'Antoni said well, we're gonna have to do it over when he gets here anyway. So what's the point? So I think it was a story. I believe it was a Lawrence Taylor story. This was one of those Belichick stories, and so I think they started a defensive meeting, without him because I guess he was running late doing whatever he was doing. And then he went to go after the meeting or whatever. He was talking to Bill Parcells. He talked to him hey, Lawrence Taylor, he showed up late to a meeting, we had to start down, blah, blah, blah. And I believe, if I remember the story correctly, more or less, Bill Parcells said why did you not wait for him to start the meeting? That kind of thing. So it seems like the type of culture. And then again, Lawrence Taylor, all-time great, so I get it. And hey, look, we could wait 5-10 minutes to wait till Lawrence Taylor get there. I get Parcells' point, but again, it just seems that's what the Rockets organization had built, culture, and as in to where Harden could do what he pleased. So again, this is really, you could honestly argue, the first time they've ever really said no to him at any point on anything, really. Because like I said, it seems as if he was just willing and able to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And now, like I said, the one thing he wants apparently is a trade. Now they're not going to give it to him. So like I said, it just seems very odd. And not just seems that very odd, but then you could understand why you would get to this point where, again, you foster a culture where it's built around him. So then now he's all right, well, I don't feel like being here anymore. Trade me. And they're just hold on, James. We're not going to do all that because we still want to be competitive. We still want to be good. We still want to, get people to come to our games and things like that. So I get it from both sides. But it just, like I said, it is a very interesting dynamic. Harden and the Rockets and kind of where they are at. But like I said, with this report coming out that they're reportedly expanding trade talks beyond just Brooklyn and Philly, that would seem as if they've reached a boiling point with James where all right, is this worth dealing with? Because again, it made sense when you were when he was MVP candidate, which he still might be this year if he plays they were competing for championship, things like that, where you thought they could compete for championships. Not to say this team can't, but like I said, a lot of unknowns on the roster. And don't know what John Wall's going to look like for a full season. Don't know what Boogie's going to look like for a full season. Don't know how well they're played together with James. Obviously, you didn't know that with Chris Paul or with Russ, but at least with Russ, that's his boy. So, like I said, that'll work some things out, but obviously it wasn't perfect marriage there. And Chris Paul, again, him and Chris Paul had their differences, but those were the best teams probably. Well, that 2018 team that almost beat the Warriors and probably would have if Chris Paul doesn't hurt his hamstring is probably the best iteration of the Rockets that have been assembled since James Harden had been there. And so again, you can kind of deal with those things a little bit. But like I said, at some point you kind of just be this is just too much, even for us to deal with. And I feel that's kind of where the Rockets are at right now. So I could see why they'd be more willing to trade him to non-preferred destinations of his. Though, in theory, you would think like, hey, you want to, he's done so much for the team, so much for the franchise, you want to try to, make sure he finds a nice spot. But at the same time, you also have to do what's best for your franchise. And what's best for your franchise may not be what's best for the player, especially when it is evident that they've tried to do everything they can to do right by the player up until this point. And I said the culture in which they developed or created around him and like made the whole team James Harden centric. Like I said, they've done everything they can to make him feel welcome, make him feel good, like get the players he wanted. Like I said, it seems like he was very adamant on getting Russ here. And I believe that, I think in the Athletic article said that he was going to request a trade if they didn't bring Russ in. It's like I said, they did that. That didn't work. They were able to flip him and things like that. But like I said, they've done things that he's wanted. Now, so the new thing he wants, where they're like, we're not going to do that. And if we do that, we're not going to do it in your best interest. Like I said, I'm not going to say they're going to send him to like the Kings, or they're going to send him to like the Magic, or like Detroit, or something like that. Even though him and Blake might not be bad together, but again, you get what I'm saying. Just like to like a random team. I don't think they're going to do that. But at the same time, I don't think they're just going to like bend the knee and just like take whatever deal Brooklyn offers them. Because like no, like I said, if you're trading James Harden, and as you've seen, I mean, you just saw with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, I think, got like 3 first-round picks or something like that, plus multiple players, and that's Drew Holiday. Like no offense to Drew Holiday, but he's not James Harden. You've seen what guys like Paul George, even though the Paul George trade was really for Kawhi and Paul, but still, the Paul George trade, the Anthony Davis trade, even the first Paul George trade where they got Oladipo and Sabonis out of the definitely 2 all-star caliber players. I mean, they were young at the time, but 2 all-star caliber guys that turned into all-stars. And these all-star caliber players, like you can see that you can get good pieces for superstars. Obviously, Paul George is, at least in the Indiana stage, was borderline superstar, but I think he did have his own shoe at that point, so I feel like that kind of makes you a superstar. I don't know. Everyone's definition of superstar is different. My point is that it is clear that you can trade for these caliber of guys and get a lot in return. So again, the Rockets are like, if we're going to do this, we're going to make it worth our while, which again, I completely get. Like, why would you want to shortchange yourself just because James Harden wants out? Speaking of that, again, this whole Ben Simmons thing is very strange because supposedly he's on the trade block, or they would be willing to include him in offers. Like Daryl Morey and Elton Murray would be willing to include him in offers, allegedly. But then Daryl Morey came out today and said that they're not trading Ben Simmons. So, someone leaked this information out. Like, someone was given this information to say, like, hey, the Sixers are willing to trade Ben Simmons if it comes to that. But again, also, since, like, in this article I said nothing's really advanced past the talking stage, if Ben Simmons was included, obviously you got to work out the picks and maybe some other filler, but, like, I think you take most of the offers Ben Simmons included in. Like, again, unless they were just giving you nothing else and it was like, oh, Ben Simmons for Harden and someone else, like, straight up. Like, I'm just like, I feel like you would find a way to get a deal done if Ben Simmons was involved. That's what said that part of it sounds a little fishy. But also the Daryl Morey side of things, I believe, and I think I saw an excerpt on this, but I believe when Chris Paul was wondering if he was going to get traded to OKC, Daryl Morey told him, you're not getting traded to OKC, and obviously he was in OKC last year. So again, I don't know if we can take Daryl Morey at his word 100% if he says, oh, he's not going to be traded. And then we see this all the time. Like, GMs always be like, oh, like, this guy isn't going to get traded. We just saw it, like, with Odell and Gettleman. He's like, oh, we didn't sign him to trade him. Then they just end up trading him. Like, again, you don't want to lose your leverage. Because, again, if you say, like, oh, yeah, like, Ben Simmons is on the trade market. Then, again, if you're the Rockets, you're like, oh, we don't have to. If you're willing to trade as Ben Simmons, then we don't have to push as hard to get other things back. Like, all right, you've lost some of your leverage there. But like I say, if you say he's not on the trade market, or he's not, then all right, then the Rockets have to make sure that it's a good deal for both sides. So like I said, then maybe they wouldn't be as willing to give up. They wouldn't force the Sixers to give up as much, kind of thing. Because it's all negotiation, and that's kind of what you have to remember when you see these type of reports. That like, oh, whose side does this help? Obviously, these kind of reports are great for Harden. Not to say that they aren't true, but they're great for Harden because again, it drums up interest and be like, oh, Like, there's a lot of people that want him. So, like, oh, if you really want him, you're gonna have to give up something good. If Brooklyn, if you really want him, you have to give up something good. Miami Heat, I think they were trying to get it done without Duncan Robinson. I'm like, I like Duncan Robinson. Like, he's a very good 3-point shooter, but like, that's a deal breaker for James Harden. Like, really? Like, that sounds a little too good to be true. But again, it might just be a leak that the Heat have put out there just to say like, oh, we're not just gonna freely give up Duncan Robinson. Like, we might include him in a deal. Also, they said the same thing about Tyler Hero, and I'm like, all right, I like Tyler Hero more than like a lot of people did coming out. Like, him and Devin Booker have been the two guys that I would say that I've gone hardest for pre-draft, but both mainly because I wanted them to end up on the Thunder because we could kind of use people with their skill set. Neither of them happened. Devin Booker at least was close. Like, Tyler Hero never made it anywhere close to OKC. But Devin Booker literally went the pick before. Don't know why the Thunder did not trade up to get him. Because if they had Devin Booker, there's a chance that KD and Russ might still be on the Thunder. I don't think about that often, if you can't tell. But yeah, I like Tyler Hero, but like, not enough to not trade him for James Harden if I can get him. Like, that's foolishness. Like, what are we doing? So like I said, all this stuff sounds good in theory. Like, oh, we're not going to trade this guy. Oh, we're not going to trade that guy. Like, yeah, but you have to say that though. Because again, if you don't, you lose all your leverage. And like I said, at the end of the day, this is a negotiation. You can't just give up whatever you want. You can't just like give the other team whatever you want. Like, you gotta go back and forth. You gotta offer, then they gotta make a counter offer and things like that. Like, it's not simple. Normally it's not as simple as like, hey, you want to trade such and such, such and such? Yeah, okay, cool. And then like you get it like worked out within a couple hours. Like, that doesn't normally happen. Obviously, it happened with the John Wall and Russ trade, but again, it was a situation where they didn't want Russ there anymore. And like, if you're the Wizards, you're like, all right, at least we know what Russ is. We don't know what John Wall is, even though he's looked pretty good in the preseason. But it's still preseason at the end of the day. So, like I said, this whole James Harden thing is quite a bit of a mess. Which again isn't that surprising. But yeah, it kind of just be interesting to see kind of where it goes. At this point, I expect him to be on the Rockets to start the year. What happens from there is what happens from there. Again, we'll kind of see how him and Wall and Christian Wood, who looked really good today in their preseason game, and Boogie, how they all kind of mesh and gel together. And like I said, if it goes well, then maybe James Harden doesn't get traded. If it starts off a little rocky, or James Harden's like making things difficult for everyone else in the locker room, then it might just be like, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be Jimmy Butler's situation where Butler shows up to practice and beats the stars with like the third team. There's not gonna be anything like that. I don't think. Who knows? But like I said, I imagine if things get rocky, then I think the Rockets have at least this new regime has shown like, hey, look, we're not going to deal with what you put Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni through, or what they allowed you to put them through in the last regime. Like, I don't think they're going to go for that. So like I said, I think he could be out of here, but I don't think they're going to be out of here yet. Like I said, Steven Silas said they were want to get uncomfortable, if I remember correctly, from earlier when the first room was kind of swirled. So like I said, they're fine with having him on the roster. Unhappy if that makes the team better for the short term at least. And again, if it becomes an issue, becomes a problem, then all right, you move on and you trade him. Like I said, he's James Harden. There's gonna be people out there that want him. And like I said, all these trade packages aren't really gonna get better. Just like which one you want. As like, again, some might get worse because like injury or different things, but like the packages are what they are at this point. Like, you know what teams like have the best young players, what teams have picks, what teams don't have picks. Like, you know all that stuff already. So I said you don't need to trade him now. Like, it's not like you're in a rush to do anything. But again, if he becomes an issue, then you might have to. So again, this will be an interesting thing to see play out in the future. And speaking of the future, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to see. Obviously, we're in 2020 now, almost over. We're about to hit 2021, so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of project of the players currently in the NBA. So, like, not talking about guys in college, like no Cade Cunningham, no like BJ Boston or Terrence Clark or any of those type of guys, or like I said, the Imani Bates of the world, or who was the other guy? You guys know what I'm talking about, like the tall white guy that he played against. I want to say his name like Chet or something. Like I said, none of those type of guys. Like, these guys have to be in the NBA right now, currently, so they're rookies and older. But like, who do I think would be or is going to be the best player in the league in 5 years? Like I said, when LeBron's kind of on his down, assuming he ever hits a downward slope. KD's a little bit older, Steph's a little bit older, Kawhi's a little bit older. Guys like that. Who do I think is going to be the best player, or at least in contention for the best player in the league at that point in time? Like I said, 5 years down the line. So I will discuss that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
So, like I said, on this list, you're obviously not going to have your LeBrons because it's 5 years down the line. Even if LeBron's like still pretty good, he's not going to be like best player in the world good. I think. I could be wrong, but I think because he'll be like 40 at that point. I think how old is LeBron right now? Let me check this. Because like I said, he'd be pushing 40. Like I said, that's assuming he's even in the league 5 years. I think he just wants to play long enough that Bronny gets into the league, and then once that season's done, he'll be good. So he's 35 right now, going to turn 36 in a couple weeks. So 5 years, they're talking about being 40 going on 41. Like I said, he might still be in the league, but like I said, the chances of him still being the best player in the world are, in my opinion, zero. But again, LeBron has defied a lot of odds up until this point. So who am I to put it past him that he might be able to continue to be good into his 40s? I mean, hey, look, Tom Brady did it, but again, different sport, different things. So like I said, not including him. I don't think about like Steph, KD, who like they're in their early 30s now. No more Harden, no more Russ, no more Kawhi, none of those type of guys. None of those guys. All those guys are out the league. Oh, well, not, like I said, they're not out the league technically because like some of those guys, and a good number of those guys probably would still be around at that point, but they're not, like I said, the cream of the crop at the top of the NBA food chain or like the top of the pyramid, whatever you want to call it. Like they're not at the top anymore. So I was like, who are the next guys in line? So, like I said, rookies and older. At this point, I think obviously the number one answer should probably be Giannis at this point. He just turned 26, so in 5 years, in 2025, he'll be 31 or 32. He's coming off back-to-back MVP seasons. He's already at this point a 4-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA guy, 3-time All-Defensive Team guy, just won Defensive Player of the Year. So, again, got some things to fine-tune on his game. Obviously, the jump shot needs work. The free throw shooting needs work. Just like the shooting in general. Not even just the catch and shoot, but also just like kind of off the dribble a little bit. Not that he needs like a great pull-up game, but just the fact that he really can't. Once he starts dribbling, he basically can't really stop. And he has to go all the way to the rim. Though again, it's obviously easy for him because he's so long and athletic and things like that. Like it's not like it's if I were him, I would do it as well. But again, because of the fact that he needs to work on his game, there's obviously reasons to believe that he may not be this guy come the time. But again, obviously, he's a back-to-back MVP and just turned 26. Like, he's going to be in the conversation for best player in the world, you would think. Or best player in the league, you should think at that point. Like, that seems reasonable. Another guy that I think would be in that conversation as well is Anthony Davis. Again, he's 27 now. So he'd be about 32, 33, somewhere around there. So again, on the downside of his prime. But again, it might be a situation similar to like LeBron, where like, all right, LeBron's like 35, 36 now, but 32 was like a couple years ago. And again, whether you wanted to say Steph or KD or LeBron, like LeBron was still in that conversation at that point in time. Like I said, I feel like Anthony Davis, the things he can do offensively, things he can do defensively, will still be in that conversation 5 years from now. Like I said, he's probably going to be in the conversation starting, I would say probably starting this year. Again, you could honestly make that argument last year. Like, again, he led the Lakers in almost every statistical category, except for assists, obviously. Though, again, when you have a ball on your team, make sure life a lot simpler. But again, it's one of those situations where a lot of games, he's the best player for the Lakers. And again, if you still think LeBron's the best player in the world, and on any given night Anthony Davis can be better than him, both offensively and defensively, who's to say that he can't be the best player in the world? So, like I said, obviously he's going to have more work to do in order to get that nod. But, like I said, 5 years from now, I think he could be in that conversation, personally. I said just the things he can do offensively, defensively, his shooting ability at his size, his ability to handle the ball a little bit, again, former point guard, obviously. So, I think he's another guy that could at least be in that conversation. The third one, again, in my opinion, a little obvious, but I mean, you can't not say, would be Luka Doncic. Obviously, he's only 21. He turned 22 in February. So again, he's another guy. All NBA last year, and Rookie of the Year, was an All-Star last year, and again took giant leaps from year 1 to year 2. Year 1, he averaged 6 assists. The second year, he averaged almost 9. Year 1, he averaged 21.2 points. Second year, he averaged 28.8. Year 1, he averaged 6.6 rebounds. Oh, no, 7.8 rebounds, excuse me. That's 6.6 defensive rebounds. 7.8 rebounds. Year 2, he averaged 9.4. His free throw shooting also improved as well. He went from 71% to about 76%. So that was good. And his three-point shooting went down a little bit, but his two-point percentage went way up. And his field goal percentage went way up in turn. So like I said, he shot about 42.7, and in the second year he shot 46.3. So again, if he can continue to improve his free throw shooting and can become a better three-point shooter on top of doing what he continues to do, or continues to do offensively and playmaking wise, like there's no reason to believe that he couldn't be the best player in the world. I mean, well, best player in the league. Well, and probably in turn best player in the world, because again, normally the best player in the world happens to reside in the NBA because it's the best league. Blah blah blah. But as I said, there's no reason to believe he couldn't be in that conversation for the best player in the league. No, absolutely zero. Like I said, assuming he continues on the trajectory he's on, again, there's not really much better he could do. Again, obviously, other than averaging like 30 and 10, he's only, but he's when you average 29, basically when you average basically like 29, 9 and 9, there's only so much more you can improve. Like there's not really a whole lot further he can go. So again, he's only in second year. He's only 20. He's only 22 years old. No, 21. Excuse me. He's not 22 yet. So again, he's still a young kid. In terms of obviously the league, obviously 22 is not that young, and it's still young, but you get the point. He's still young in NBA years. So again, he still have a lot to grow. He's nowhere near his prime, whatever that's going to look like. So like I said, just one of those situations where he's only going to get better. And like I said, his second year is better than a lot of people's best years. And like I said, obviously not the all-time greats, but again, there's guys who right now at age 27, 28 would kill to have a 29-9 season. And he did in his second year at 20 to 21 with not that great of a team around him. So again, what happens if he gets better teammates? If like I said, once he gets a little bit older, once he gets a little bit more mature, once he understands the game even more than he already does, what's his numbers going to look like? So like I said, he's another guy that I think could easily be that best player in the league caliber of person. And obviously, again, the other one would be Zion, though I'm a little bit more hesitant on him just because we haven't seen that much of him yet. Obviously, Anthony Davis and Giannis, we've seen well documented what they are, what they're good at, what they're bad at, where their careers are going at this point. Obviously, again, still more to find out. Luka, again, we have 2 full seasons, which isn't a whole lot, but it's more than what we have on Zion, which is about 20 games. But in those 20 games, he averaged 22.5, 6 and 2. They only played 24 games. And he was doing this on 28 minutes a night while shooting almost 60% from the field, 58% from the field. Now, again, the interesting thing about him is just the size. again, the athleticism is going to be there. Assuming he can like keep the weight and stay healthy and all those things, and that'll be another thing like his health. But again, the size is going to be the big factor. But also, he's only 20 years old. Like, turned 20 in July. Like, he's still very young. So there's a lot to develop in his game. So like I said, if he can combine that athleticism and get his outside shot a little bit more, develop and continue to work on that. If he can, get some more playmaking ability, continue to, and his defensive ability, obviously, again, he can block shots and things like that, but if he becomes a solid on-ball defender, things like that, like, there's a lot for him to do, and a lot of ways for him to utilize that athleticism that he has currently. Like I said, in 5 years, he'll only be 25, 26 years old, not even officially in his prime yet. As I said, I really don't feel like it's far-fetched to believe that he could be the best player in the league in 5 years either, which is, again, why he went number one overall. I mean, you don't take somebody number one overall if you don't think they're going to be one of the best players in the league when they get to that age. So like I said, those are the four. And like I said, these rookies, I'm not really going to stake my claim on any of them. In fact, I haven't done enough research. I really don't know. But just from what I've seen so far, if I was going to project a guy like that, just all potential. I mean, I've always kind of liked LaMelo, so I like what he's done in these preseason games, especially he's getting his shot together a little bit. He had 0 points in his first game. Shot, like, I believe it was like 30% from the field in his second game. And now in this game, I think he shot in the 40s. So again, if he can get his shot together, his shot selection together, I think that's going to be his biggest issue, that his shot selection has always been pretty poor from what I've seen in like the highlights and different things that he's done, or the games he's had going even back to high school. Like, he would just be shooting from anywhere. So he kind of has to hone that in a little bit, and if he can, that'll be good. Hit 4 threes in this game, in his game tonight. That's 18 and 5 and 2 rebounds. So like I said, his playmaking's there. So if he can develop the scoring a little bit in 5 years, who's to say he couldn't, if nothing else, be arguably the best point guard, especially at his size. Like, he's what, like 6'7". Gets a little bit more weight on him. I think he's only like 180. Gets it up to like 190, maybe 195, something like that. Can a little bit better on defense. Like I said, his shot's a little bit more consistent, and the playmaking's going to be there. Like, who's to say he couldn't do that? And also, another guy that I've liked what I've seen so far. Again, still young. Like I said, I just wanted to give a couple rookies. Is this the Denny guy? Like, he's looked pretty good against preseason. You don't really know what to expect. And again, it's the Wizards, so it's hard to really say what he's going to look like 100%. Just again, they're not necessarily the best run organization. But I will say that from what I saw, or what I've seen, just again, or just even the footage, just kind of the size. Like, he's at 6'9", good size, good scoring ability, and again, he's a good passer. Like, in his first game, he had 15, 4 and 2, and shot 6 from 6 from the field and 3 from 3. Again, you're not gonna shoot like that every game. Like I said, if he can do that, he has a good feel for the game. And he's the type of guy. Like, again, he's like the kind of player you want going forward in the NBA. A guy that's tall, that can shoot, that can pass, that can handle the ball, can rebound. Like I said, he kind of fits into that mold. So again, I don't know enough about Denny to know if he's going to be that. But again, if I was I wanted to just project a couple of rookies going forward. Again, there's obviously a lot of other guys that people like, the Maxey, like the Bulls fans are like Patrick Williams, what he's done. Again, there's a lot of rookies out there. Like, who knows? Like, Wiseman could be that. Anthony Edwards might be a scoring champion 5 years from now. Again, you never know with these guys. But like I said, just pure speculation. Pure speculation. Those are the two guys I'd be keeping my eyes out for. But again, that's just me. So like I said, the main guys I think that could be or should be in the conversation at this point, I honestly believe it'll probably be between Luka. I think it'll probably be Luka at that point, just because, again, what he's done in his first 2 years is unprecedented. So again, if he continues to get better from there, the sky's the limit for him. And though obviously the best player in the world, that comes with, you got to win MVPs, you got to lead your team to the playoffs year after year, you got to have some success in the playoffs, get to the conference finals, get to the finals, maybe even win a finals potentially. Though in fairness to LeBron, he was best player in the world before he ever won a final. So I say you don't need to win. But like I said, it just definitely does help your case. That's why, like I said, you kind of have to throw a guy like Giannis in there. Have to throw a guy like Anthony Davis in there. Guys like that. But like I said, I think the way it's going, and especially the way they're going to market him, I think they're going to try to, if Luka keeps up his end of the bargain and plays the basketball the right way, I think he'll be not only the face of the league, potentially him or Zion, but also there's no reason to believe he won't be the best player in the league in 5 years' time. So, we'll kind of see. It'll be interesting to have look back on these predictions and kind of see what happens. But like I said, Anthony Davis, Giannis, Luka, Zion are probably my four that I would be willing to put money on. I'm not going to, but I'll put money on. Like I said, there's other people that could be that and very well will have a case for that. But like I said, those are the kind of guys that I think could be regarded that highly in 5 years' time again, once all the other superstars of now are, kind of on the back burner a little bit. So, as we always do every week, or every Friday, we are going to look ahead to the weekend in college football and in the NFL. Look at the games coming up, obviously conference championship weekend in college, and some other miscellaneous games that we don't care about. Because again, I don't know why they're being played. And then obviously we'll look ahead to some of the major football games this weekend as well. So we'll discuss those right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Championship game up. It's up on Friday, so it might be going on, or it might be about to happen by the time you guys hear this, or maybe it's already passed by the time you guys have heard this. But Pac-12 Championship, USC and Oregon, as I believe we talked about earlier in the week, is stepping in for Washington. They couldn't play due to COVID reasons, so Oregon's got to step in. And this is an interesting one, only because USC has only played close games basically this year. Not they only played close games, but 3 of their games they've won has been down to the wire, very close. And then a similar thing in Oregon in the games in which they've lost. Again, they lost to Oregon State down there at the very end. They lost a close one to Cal as well. I mean, they barely held on against UCLA. So it's just a situation where, and then obviously supposed to play Washington last week, but couldn't. But like I said, it was another situation where it was a close one late that they had a chance to win, but just could not. So yeah, that should be an interesting one, to say the least. Like I said, I don't know how good USC is this year, and I'm not sure how bad Oregon is this year. So neither outcome would shock me at this point. But again, you usually go with the undefeated team in these type of scenarios. So I'll go USC just because again they've showcased an ability to play in and win these close games. Even if, again, some of it's their own doing, some of it's they need to come back. Whatever the situation is, they just find ways to win in the end. And while, on the other hand, Oregon has found ways to lose. So, like I said, you want to go USC, but again, it would not shock me one way or the other if either team won this one. Unfortunately, for Coastal Carolina, their game on Saturday against Louisiana was canceled. Because they had some positive COVID testing. They got to get things figured out there, so they had to cancel that one. And that one hurts because Coastal Carolina was at 12 now. Had a real shot if they won to secure themselves a spot in New Year's Six bowl game. It should probably still be fine because teams ahead of them are going to lose. And again, assuming Florida loses to Alabama, they'll have 3 losses. You can't keep them above them. You can't keep them above Coastal Carolina. Either Iowa State or Oklahoma will lose. And they'll have 3 losses, so again, in theory, you can't keep them above them. In fairness, they've already beaten Louisiana once this season, so you would think that would be enough for the committee to make sure that they get in. But again, you never know with these things. Like I said, I just want to give them a shout out for a very good season, but it's a shame they can't end it with the conference championship due to COVID, unfortunately. But that's the kind of year we're in. And that's just the kind of year we are in. Big Ten championship, you got Northwestern versus Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State hasn't really played a whole lot recently. So we'll see if they'll come out a little rusty or anything like that. But also, like, Northwestern isn't, like, they're not bad. Again, they're 6-1, I believe. Yeah, 6-1. But they did lose to, who did they lose to? Michigan State. Like, that's a terrible loss, especially when Ohio State beat them by 40. So you expect this one not to be close, but again, maybe Northwestern at least keeping competitive for like a half or so. Maybe like I said, Ohio State, since they haven't really played that many games this year, and they especially haven't played that many games recently, in their last 5 weeks, 3 of their games have been canceled. So, again, we'll kind of see what they'll look like. But, again, you would assume Ohio State's able to pull this one out because, I mean, no offense to Northwestern, but, I mean, it is Ohio State. So, again, we'll see. We'll see. But, again, Ohio State's got to win to make sure they secure their spot in the Big Ten Championship. In the college football playoff. So, I would imagine they're going to go out and give this one their all, obviously, because you can't really afford to lose this one. So, see what happens there. You got Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma, Iowa State, as we discussed multiple times, Iowa State beat Oklahoma earlier in the season in a close one, 37-30. I believe this one ended on a Spencer Rattler pick, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was an interception after Iowa State went down and took the lead. They got picked off. Spencer Rattler got picked off like a minute left in the end zone. So again, that was back when Spencer Rattler, which is, he was a freshman, he just getting his feet wet playing. It's not the same Oklahoma team that they're playing right now. Oklahoma, since they lost, it was this game? Yeah, they lost to Kansas State and Iowa State back to back. Since they lost this game and obviously they beat Texas the next weekend in quadruple overtime, they've been on a tear. They put up at least 27 points every game. Their defense has been very solid. The only game they gave up a lot of points was to Texas Tech, and they gave up 28. Well, again, this is after Texas. They're giving up 14, 9, 13 to Oklahoma State, and then 14 to Baylor. So, again, their defense has been very solid. Offense has been great. So, like I said, this is not the same Oklahoma team that Iowa State faced earlier in the year. So that's why I think Oklahoma should be able to pull out the dub. But, again, Iowa State has been very good this year. So I can't just write them off as if they're going to be sorry. They have no shot against Oklahoma. But like I said, this is not the same Oklahoma team that they're facing. Obviously they won early. Again, great for them. It was a very huge win. It's one of the reasons why they're ranked number 6 in the country right now. But like I said, this is not the same team. The defense is much better. Their offense is, like Spencer Rattler's turning the ball over a lot less, and so that's a big deal. He only has 7 interceptions on the year, and I think he had at least 4 or 5, something like that, early in the season. So he's been great for them. So again, since he had to get benched and everything once it started to come together for him, he's been great. And so the defense has been better than they've had in recent years, at least this year. Like I said, we'll see. The Big 12 teams will see if they were able to get in the playoff, which they probably won't, or see what happens in their bowl game if they have it. Like I said, we've got to see how that's going to go down with COVID and everything. Like I said, I'd probably think Oklahoma's going to win just because I feel like they're playing better at this point in time. Now, obviously, again, I would say it's not coming off any loss or anything like that. But they did lose to Oklahoma State that Oklahoma smoked. And then, obviously, they lost to Louisiana early. But, like I said, both teams are playing good right now. But, obviously, but I feel as if Oklahoma's playing a little bit better. So, that's why I'd probably lean that way. Again, if I were a betting man, which I am, or at least I try not to be. ACC championship game, you got a rematch. Clemson Notre Dame, arguably the game of the year if you don't want to, obviously that and probably BYU, Coastal Carolina are the ones up there, at least for me in college football. But this time they have Trevor Lawrence. We'll see how much of a difference that makes. Obviously it makes a difference in the betting line because they're 10.5 point favorites, so Vegas doesn't think with Trevor Lawrence in there it'll be all that close. But again, Notre Dame has a shot to prove, like, hey, the first time we won was not a fluke. Like, we are really that good. All right. Here you go. Prove it. Prove to everybody that the first time wasn't a fluke. You didn't only win because of a freshman was out there. And granted, the freshman played very well. And also, I guess that would be the key thing is that, like, again, the offense wasn't really the issue in that game. It was the fact that their defense gave up, like, 47 points. So they've been playing better recently, but again, they played Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech. Like, those aren't exactly, the most high-powered offenses in the world. So again, that'll be the big thing is that, like, can their defense play better? Because obviously, offense should be fine with Trevor Lawrence out there and everything, but, like, can the defense, like, show up? Like, can the defense show up? Because if it does, then they probably have a good chance, or a very good chance, and probably win the game. But like I said, the defense, if we get into another shootout, then it might just come down to who has the ball last. Kind of like it did in the first game with the overtime period and everything like that. So again, Clemson, I can make sure their defense is on point because, like I said, it wasn't in that first game. And like I said, we'll see how much of a difference having Trevor Lawrence makes. Like, is he really that big of a difference where instead of losing by 7, you win by double digits? Is that he's like a 20-point swing? Hey, we'll see. Like I said, that'll be the big one. That'll be a big test. And now this is big for Clemson. Like, basically since the playoff came out, like they're always like them, Alabama, Ohio State. They're teams that are always really in the mix. And this loss would knock them out. They already have a loss on the season, obviously, to Notre Dame. So I said this would be a big one for them. And also if Notre Dame loses, depending on how they lose, this will be a big test for the committee. Because like I said, Notre Dame's been in the top 4 for weeks now. Like, will one loss to a Clemson team with Trevor Lawrence push you out of the top 4? Again, we'll have to wait and see. It depends on how badly they lose. That'd be a good test, and that'd be a very good game. That's one I'm definitely gonna keep my eyes on. Obviously the late one, Florida, Alabama. Lost some of its intrigue, obviously, with Florida losing to LSU last week. So Alabama should probably smoke them. But if the offense can show up, then at least we might get a shootout, which could be fun. Like I said, they like Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith. They should be able to put up points on Florida. If, like I said, a freshman LSU quarterback could do it without his best receiving options. Like, if he could do it, then I think Alabama's offense could. But again, the thing will be, can Kyle Trask and Tony and Kyle Pitts and those guys, can they put up the points when they are on the field and get this and turn this into a shootout? Like I said, to ask Florida's defense to do what no one else has done this year, and that's really hold down Alabama. They haven't scored less than 38 points this season, and that was the first game against Missouri. So, like they've scored at least 40 every game since. Like they've scored 52, 63, 41, 48, 41. Didn't play LSU. Don't know what happened there. I scored 63, 42, 55. Oh wait, they did play LSU. It got postponed. Yeah, so mind you, a team that Florida lost to in Gainesville. Granted, they probably don't lose if the guy doesn't throw a shoe, but still, it was far too close. They beat in Baton Rouge by almost 40. Alabama did. So like I said, it just doesn't really match up. So again, we'll see. Maybe Florida, again, since maybe Florida was overlooking LSU, which I think they were, and they'll be more up for this game. So again, we'll have to see if that is what in fact happens. But yeah, there's no way you would believe at this point that this game would be all that close. But it's just a wait and see scenario there. And then also Cincinnati finally gets to play this week. They don't play Tulsa in the AAC Conference Championship game, so it'll be nice to get them, nice to be able to have them play a game, and they'll be able to show like, hey, we're still good. It's not our fault that COVID's like ruined our season. Like, hey, we're still a good team. And then again, a chance to be another top 25 team. Because Tulsa's ranked 23 at this moment. So again, another quality win on their resume if they were able to get it. As I said, we'll see if there's any rust, or maybe they'll be well rested, or not well rested because they have to deal with COVID and stuff. But like, see if they come out with more energy, more energetic. They haven't played a game in a while. See if they come out a little shaky, a little nervous. I don't know what's going to happen with Cincinnati because it's been so long since they played. They haven't played a game since the end of November. Again, almost a full month they haven't played a game. So we'll see what happens they ever get shout out to them, at least they'll finally be able to play a game. Like I said, there's some other games. Boise State and San Jose State, Mountain West Conference Championship game. That's going down. You got like miscellaneous games like Texas A&M and Tennessee. You got some other games too, but I'm not going to go through all the conferences. Like Wake Forest is playing Florida State. I know Penn State's playing this weekend. Why? I don't know. But it's happening. But like I said, most people are going to be more concerned with the conference championship games, as you should be, because that's really what matters this weekend. That's what teams are trying to get to. Like, hey, can we get through the season? We can get to this, have a conference champion, and then see where the college football playoff ranks us, and see what bowl games people get into and things like that. So we will know all that come the end of Saturday. Well, we won't know the ranking until Tuesday. We'll know who won and who lost come late Saturday night. So it should be a good day of college football. After we come back here from this last break, we will discuss the NFL side of things, NFL Sunday, and talk about the games that I'm looking forward to, the games that are very important for different teams for different reasons, all the fun stuff. So we will discuss that after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
GSMC Podcast Network. So, this week we got a couple Saturday games. None of them not really all that interesting, but we got a couple Saturday games. Decided to point that out to you guys so you know. 4:30, which is interesting because they're trying to compete with the College Football Championship games and things like that. So you want to put better games on, but whatever. They just feel like people are going to watch NFL because it's NFL. So you got Bills, Broncos at 4:30 in Denver, and then you got Panthers, Packers, 8:15. The Bills and Packers should both find ways to win those, but again, who knows? We will see what happens there. So, like, looking through the Sunday slate, not the greatest slate of games, I must say myself, but the interesting one, or one of the interesting ones, I should say, will be this 1 o'clock Bears-Vikings game. Obviously, it's not going to be like the greatest game, because neither the Bears nor the Vikings are that good. But the winner of this game will be 7-7, which will give them a chance to be right in the thick of things in the NFC playoff picture. Like right now, the Vikings are Washington's the 7th seed currently, but again, they're obviously into the playoffs. So the lowest wildcard team is the Cardinals at 7-6 right now. And they play the Eagles this weekend. We'll talk about that game in a second. But they finished out against the Niners and the Rams. Niners, I believe they played the Niners first game of the year. That was closer than the Rams. They lost to not that long ago. Yeah. So like I said, those are two games that they could potentially lose. And if Jalen Hurts gets out there and does his thing again this weekend, that's another game they could lose. So you could be seeing a tie for that last wildcard spot with the winner of this Bears-Vikings game. Which again, why it is so important. Well, on top of the fact it's a divisional game. But again, the winner of this game has a chance, at least at this last wildcard spot. Which obviously they won't if they lose. So I've said, that is a very, very big, very important game for both of these franchises. If they have aspirations of making it to the playoffs. If you don't really care, then alright, you lose, it is what it is. But if you have aspirations of getting to the playoffs, then this is definitely a game that could help you do that. Or that would at least put you a step closer. Because again, you still got to surpass the Cardinals. But it at least would put you in the right direction for potentially getting that done. Another 1 o'clock game that will intrigue me, or at least would have if Al Smith was healthy, but doesn't seem like he's going to be. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I don't think he's going to be. And because of that, then you have to go with Dwayne Haskins. And Dwayne Haskins, that's how I feel about Dwayne Haskins. Just like the offense did not look very good last week. And defense is really what won them the game. They got 2 defensive scores. So it's 14 points right there, and they only scored 23 points on the game. So that's all you need to know about that. But they do play Seattle. And if there's one thing that will happen to Russ sometimes is he will get sacked. And he will get pressure. And again, we're going to be the testament to see how good is this defense. Again, I'm not saying they're not going to go out there be the 85 Bears, 2000 Ravens, Legion of Boom, anything like that. But if you can keep getting turnovers, and because you get scores off the turnovers, or at least give your offense short fields, even against a defense that hasn't been great for the entirety of the year, but has been playing a lot better over the last month or so. Ever since that Bills game, the Seahawks have been playing pretty well defensively. Also, it comes with getting guys back healthy and things like that. But they've been playing a lot better, so if they can keep playing that way, then Dwayne Haskins probably isn't going to do a whole lot if he's out there. But again, obviously, he might not be out there. So we'll see what happens there, because it could still be Alex Smith. But I don't think he's going to play. But again, we'll kind of see what happens with that if he's active or if he's good to go. That'll be the big story there. If, like I said, if Alex Smith's good to go, then that changes the trajectory, or changes the likelihood of them winning the game. Okay, so it's optimistic he will start. So, again, maybe he will play. All right, but again, we'll have to see if he's limited. Like I said, Daniel Jones played this weekend, and that did not look good at all. So, like I said, if he's incapacitated in any sort of way, him playing doesn't really mean a whole lot. Because, again, it might hurt the team more than it helps. But if he's healthy and able to play, then, like I said, that is a big difference. That is a very big difference. So, like I said, that'll be the true test. We'll see. Is he healthy enough to be out there and playing? And like I said, we will see about that. Another game that, and like I said, if they win this one, and that'll for Washington, if they win this one, that'll probably all but seal up the division. Like I said, the Giants play the Browns this weekend. We'll talk about that one in a second. And the Eagles play the Cardinals. Both those teams could lose that game. So like I said, they'd be up to 7 wins. And the next closest team would be at 5 with 2 left to play. So, again, not impossible. But most likely that would probably be all she wrote in the division. So, good for Washington if they were able to do that. What's next? Okay, so another game I wanted to talk about, as we already kind of touched on a little bit with the NFC East stuff, was this Cardinals-Eagles game. Because obviously, everyone was very high on Jalen Hurts, singing his praises for beating the Saints last week, and that is good, and that is fun, and that is great. Now, we get to see, all right, now that a team has a game's worth of film to see what he does well, what he doesn't do well, does he, he handle pressure pretty well, but how does he like to escape the pocket? Does he like to escape from, to his right? Does he like to escape to his left? Does he like to step up in the pocket? Does he like to climb, run out the back of the pocket? All those type of things that teams will now key in on and try to scheme around. What will kind of Jalen Hurts will have to adjust to in this game. And obviously they're playing against a guy in Hassan Reddick who just had 5 sacks. They will be starting, I believe, their 13th offensive line combination, 14 games. The Matt Pryor is going to be out there at right tackle. He's not very good. If you haven't watched many Eagles games this year, he's not very good. So, with that being said, you're going to have to find ways to help him out, adjust to him, because again, Hassan Reddick is coming off a 5-sack game. If you put him out there, I'm not saying he's going to get another 5, but he might get another 2 or 3, especially on Matt Pryor's side. So you're going to have to see about that. But again, this will be the key, is that everybody was saying, oh, Jalen Hurts is great, Jalen Hurts could be the guy, blah, blah, blah. He looks so good. They said, see, he can win with what Wentz couldn't. Why is he so much better with backups in, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is true after this one game. Now, again, the more that he continues to showcase that will be important, because then that'll be a true test. So, one game, a lot of people in the NFL, could you get to the NFL, you probably win one game as a starter. Like, I'm not saying you would win your first game, and you'd win your first game against the best team in the conference, but you'd win a game. Like I said, when you can win 2, 3, 4 games in a row, and you can consistently play at a good level, and like not turn the ball over that much, again, make good decisions, make sound decisions, make accurate throws, utilize your legs the way you can, or the way he did against the Saints. Like I said, if he can do that again this week, then okay, maybe we're talking about something here. Like I said, if the Eagles still want to have a shot at making the playoffs, they need to basically win out at this point and hope like Washington drops a game here or there, which again they could do this weekend against the Seahawks. So there's no guarantee that they won't move a game up this week. But again, you're also playing the Cardinals team that isn't a bad team. Again, they're 7-6, but they're a solid team. They just beat up on the Giants this week, like we said. Though Daniel Jones wasn't going to be able to move the way Jalen Hurts will be able to move this weekend. It's at home in Arizona, so like good condition, good weather. Former Oklahoma quarterbacks, they weren't there at the same time, but former Oklahoma quarterbacks going back and forth against each other. So that'll be kind of fun, kind of interesting. But yeah, like I said, the Cardinals need this game to have a shot at keeping their wild card spot, and the Eagles need this game if they want to have a chance at getting back in the division. So again, something's got to give, and we will see what does in fact give on this weekend. Though I know the Eagles also are trying to see if they get some guys back in the secondary. So again, we'll see how that plays. They lost a couple guys during the game. They were playing brothers basically off the street. Like by the end, so we'll see how that plays. And then even like some guys they lost like for good. Like McLeod's done for the year with the torn ACL. I think Maddox is done for the year as well. Slade's kind of come back from concussion protocol. They had a couple other guys that had hamstring injuries. This past game, that's why they weren't able to play against the Saints. So again, they have some guys back, but again, they got to figure out what to do about McLeod because like who's going to play there, like because he's been pretty good for them this year. So they got to figure that out. And like I said, we'll see what kind of happens there. And also, again, if Slade can't play, then they got to figure out who's going to cover Hopkins. And if they don't, are they just going to play a lot of zone? Or like even how they're going to contain Kyler Murray? Because quarterbacks that have tried to run have been able to do so with success against the Eagles this year, which is, again, why it made no sense to me that Taysom Hill didn't run more against them. But, hey, they won the game. I'm not going to get too mad about it. Like I said, that would be an interesting one. It's a 4-5 game. Let's see what else. I guess in the game, if the Cowboys still trying to win the division, they play the Niners this week. The Niners aren't that good. Nick Mullins, I believe, is still going to be out there. He can and will turn the ball over from time to time. The issue is that their run defense is terrible, and like the one thing the Niners can do is run the ball. So there is that. Also, Andy Dalton isn't like that great, so we'll see about that. That's a 1:00. The Bucs play the Falcons like that. They should be able to beat the Falcons, you would think, but again, they need to keep winning to try to make sure again they secure their wild card spot as well. See what else. Dolphins play the Patriots. So that'll be interesting. Potential. I know the Patriots lost to the Dolphins, and that was basically the beginning of the end for them. Last year we lost to them week 17. So that'd be an interesting one. Again, just another game where you just want to see if Tua can get over that hump and beat the Patriots, because again, Belichick normally does well against young rookie quarterbacks. You saw what he did to Justin Herbert. So we'll see what happens there. Well, that'll be a good test for him. And just like obviously the team's not great, but again, just in terms of like the scheme, the coaching, and like the brilliant minds on the defense side of the ball he's going to be going up against, like that'll be a good test for him. Let's see what else. Oh, and obviously the big one is Chiefs Saints this weekend. Apparently Drew Brees coming back to practice. He may or may not play. We'll see about that. If he plays, then all right, the Saints have a chance. If Taysom Hill plays, then they're going to get smoked. But again, I don't know if I'd rush it back if I'm Drew Brees. Again, this is his first week off of IR, and it's a rib thing. Like it's not like oh, like you like if you broke a hand or something. Like once it's healed up, like you're good. Like you hurt your ribs. Like you could easily fracture those ribs again. He fractured a lot of ribs. I did not even know you could fracture 11 ribs at one time. And that's what he did. So like I said, I hope he's not trying to rush himself back out there. Obviously, I know they lost, but it's still like very much in playoff contention. Like they might not get the 1 seed, but they're still very much in playoff contention. There's no need to rush him back too soon and potentially lose him for the rest of the season just so you can potentially win this one game. Because I understand, you probably won't lose with Taysom Hill in there. I get it. But like, don't rush him back. That seems kind of dangerous to me. But hey, if Drew Brees wants to go, he's going to go. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But that's a dangerous one if they decide to bring him back in there. But again, it should be, if he does play and is able to stay healthy, it should be a very high-powered game, especially Mahomes in that dome. Perfect weather. Tyreek Hill out there with Travis Kelce. Again, defenses look solid. No, not even solid. Very good for the Saints this year. But they haven't faced off against Patrick Mahomes. So, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, that'll be a good one. And obviously the nightcap, Browns, Giants, flexing to Sunday night. Again, I believe Daniel Jones, because he picked up like a sprained ankle or something, he probably won't play. And it's probably for the best, because if he's incapacitated, there's no reason to play him. But the Browns obviously coming off a very heartbreaking loss on Monday night against the Ravens. See if they can bounce back. I mean, the Giants aren't that good, but their defense is still pretty solid. So, if they can run the ball efficiently for the Browns and they can continue to not turn the ball over, then it should be in good shape, because even with some of their injuries and their deficiencies on the defense side of the ball, like, it's still Colt McCoy. Like, you should be able to beat Colt McCoy, in my own personal opinion. Now, again, we'll see if they're able to do it, but you should be able to beat Colt McCoy. Like I said, this is a very big game for the Giants. They want to have any chance of keeping pace with Washington, and they got to win this one. The issue is that they will be without their normal play caller. Jason Garrett has COVID, or tested positive for COVID, so Freddie Kitchens will be calling plays against his former team. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I guess we'll kind of see what happens there, because the offense has been subpar at best this year, so maybe a change of a new voice in there maybe will help them out. We'll see. I mean, I doubt it, because again, the players are the players, but like, we'll see if having Jason Garrett not call the plays makes any difference. And again, nice little potential Freddie Kitchens revenge game against his former team. That would be a fun storyline to look into. And then obviously just Steelers play the Bengals Monday night. I don't really care about that game, because if Steelers lose that game, then they might as well just not even make it into the playoffs, honestly. Like, they probably get smoked. But yeah, that'll do it from here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys as always for listening to me talk about sports. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. It'd be very appreciated. Very helpful. Allow us to see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. We can talk about what, like I said, what games you're looking forward to seeing this weekend, both in college football, conference championship games, other miscellaneous games you may care about. In the NFL, what games you have your eyes on, what games you'll be making sure you keep an eye on. Like I said, from that slate, whether they're just regular games or games with massive playoff implications, different things like that. Talk about that. Talk about how you feel about the whole, again, the James Harden saga just continues to go on and on. I don't really know when it ends. I mean, I guess it'll be over once and if he ever gets traded, that'll put an end to it. But again, until then, a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, a lot of this person is available, this person isn't available, we were talking with this team and that team, a whole lot of that. So we got to see how that plays out. And also, again, talk about who you think could be the best player in the league come 5 years from now. Like I said, I named 4 guys, but if you think it's somebody else, by all means, like I said, them. At this point, it's just a guess, so there's no real wrong answers at this point. Like I said, I didn't touch on every good young player that it could have been. So like I said, there's maybe some people I left out. And it's a similar thing with the NFL. Who do you think is the best non-quarterback playing right now? Is it Travis Kelce? Is it Aaron Donald? Is it Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, and Stephon Diggs? Like, again, let me know. I gave you my choices and the guys I think could be in contention. But again, you feel free to let me know who you think. It could be TJ Watt, like I said. Like, whoever you think, feel free to reach out and let us know before I get out of here. As I always do, like to give a shout out to essential workers that have worked tirelessly through the pandemic. The vaccines are being administered at this point in time now, so hopefully that is a step towards getting us back to some level of normalcy. I don't think anything will be 100% the same after this past year, for better or for worse. But yeah, like I said, those people that have been working tirelessly throughout this pandemic to make sure everybody's as safe and healthy as they can be, I appreciate you. So doctors, nurses, EMTs, first responders, firefighters, postal service workers, retail workers, grocery store workers, nursing home workers, FedEx, UPS, Amazon. Like I said, anybody can be an essential. Anybody that's continued to have to go out into an office or continue to have to go to work in a store or wherever, in a hospital, wherever you had to work out. If you've been deemed an essential worker, thank you for your hard work. It is very appreciated. You may not feel that way. You may not seem that way based on your interactions with people every day, but at the very least, you are appreciated by me. So hopefully Me saying that is better than like nothing. So like I said, I'm just one guy, but just know I appreciate all the work you've done throughout this pandemic and will continue to do as, again, the pandemic is not over. Like I said, still a long way to go to get through this. Also, if you still are able to go out to bars and restaurants, whether it's indoor, outdoor, wherever, just make sure you tip your bartenders, your waiters, waitresses nicely. If you can, like I said, not telling anybody to go beyond their means, spend what they don't have. But, like I said, I just want to, if you can, just want to show, I would like for you to show your appreciation for these workers. So again, restaurant industry, like many industries, is going to be hit hard this winter. Once again, more indoor dining, things are closed down, and more strict restrictions are put in place. So, like I said, if you can, by all means, give a little bit more. If you can't, like I said, just give what you can. But like I said, if you can, just give a little bit more. I imagine it'll be very appreciated. Also, wear your mask. Very simple, very easy. But that'll do it for me today. I've been Chris Blades, and that has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.